got to talk about your boy, Brock Purdy. And I haven't seen the world this divided since our last president. No, I'm just kidding. I haven't seen the world this divided since vaccines. No,
I haven't seen the world this divided since Clay Aiken or Ruben Studdard.
Oh, yeah, that was heated. I'll never forget
Come on,
that.
someone throw one out there. I haven't seen the world this divided since.
Ooh. That's a good one. That's a good one. But Brock Purdy on whether or not he's good. Like just yesterday, and this has been going on for weeks now, for about a year actually, because we just celebrated our Purdy-versary. But just yesterday, Shannon Sharp talking about he's the guy. Purdy's his MVP. He's leading the league in specific categories. He's making plays happen.
He's the MVP, Skip. I mean, Stephen A.
I'm not even going to do my Shannon Sharp here on Fox Sports Radio. But that was just yesterday. Shannon Sharp, he's my MVP. He's doing everything right. He's doing what you expect from him. And then right here on Fox Sports Radio, stop it. One of my favorite hosts here on Fox Sports Radio, Rob Parker. Stop it. He's
Get
like
some
a
help.
cake. He was
Rob
saying
Parker.
that it's like a cake. The ingredients are all there. It's all mixed up, and all you do is put it in the oven. That's what Brock Purdy
right
is.
now.
Yeah, Brock Purdy is just putting it in the oven. He didn't do any of the steps needed. He's like,
And
granted,
my cheese was hot.
granted, he's throwing the ball. He's making decisions, and nobody could take that away from him. He's throwing the ball. He's making these plays happen. He's making the decisions.
He's like the Draymond Green of the NFL. If he didn't have Steph and Clay, he would never have won championships.
Stop it.
So listen, Nick Wright on FS1, he's the number one culprit. Whack him.
Yeah, that was just yesterday.
So, yet, like you said, there's people saying, listen, you don't know football.
So in other words, Rich, you got one guy going this way, one guy going that way, and I'm here in the middle like, what do you want from me?
There's guys saying, you don't know football. And I question, like even Trent Williams, I know he's his teammate, but he goes, I question your knowledge of football if you can't see what this guy's doing and say he's MVP level. But I want to take this in a slightly different place. I want you to think of some of the players in any sport, and you can include fighters, because I know Ali comes to mind. Who are the most confident, borderline arrogant, borderline braggadocious guys? Ricky Henderson holding up the base. I'm the greatest.
Primetime
Deion Sanders.
Muhammad Ali, you said it already. Floyd Money Mayweather. A lot of flash, a lot of sizzle, but also substance. You need a little of both.
You need to be able to back it up.
You can't be all sizzle, no substance. That's the
I would
empty.
say T.O. fits in that category.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Very flashy. You know, that's the entertainment side of things. Remember, sports is entertainment. It is. And especially in the fight game, like you said, you got to sell these fights. You can't be boring and expect to sell tickets.
I'll be honest, that's what sort of held back Canelo Alvarez for the early part of his career. I used to tell Covino, I go, listen, I watch a lot of boxing.
Not with
you.
the Mexican fans, but yeah, you're right.
Not with the Mexican fans, but there was a part of me that's like, here's Canelo, and when he tries to speak English, I love the attempt. He doesn't speak with much like fiery passion.
Now he does, yeah.
And back then, he never seemed like he was mad at his opponent. I'm like, that's just not good hype for a fight.
No, probably a little less confident with the language barrier at the time. I think he's come a long way since then. But you're right. I mean, you got to sell tickets. You got to sell yourself in sports. Sports is entertainment, whether you like it or not.
Now, Brock Purdy,
Mm-hmm.
you could put him on the opposite end of the spectrum from Muhammad Ali, Ricky Henderson, Floyd Money Mayweather, all the people we just mentioned, primetime Deion Sanders. Brock Purdy is doing the complete opposite by saying, listen, I mean, we have an MVP team. In fact, I think the MVP is Christian McCaffrey.
I like that, though. What do you want him to say?
Listen, as a teammate, for a guy in your team, you're like, what a humble fella. He doesn't want to take any of the credit. He's a team guy. It's like when you interview a player after a game and they made a sick play and they refuse to acknowledge it and they're like, hey, man, listen, it was a team effort. I get it. But you don't think sometimes saying all the right things is a little preconceived and a little
sometimes
planned?
I think what you're saying is sometimes you need to be your own cheerleader. And I do that, believe me. Sometimes I'm my own biggest cheerleader, and I always say, and I jokingly do this, though, I'm like, look, I'll stop promoting the show and bragging about our show and telling people about our show when other people start doing it for me. Because that's what I'm hoping to get. I'm hoping to get to the point where people are like, man, have you heard Covino and Rich on Fox Sports Radio? They are amazing. Because then I don't have to say it, right? The world's so divided on Purdy. It's such a weird situation for him to be in. I think he should take some ownership of the game he's playing. But at the same time, man, if he missteps,
he's going to be crucified for
it because everybody's so hard on him. And like Rob Parker said yesterday, I agree.
Rob Parker,
I do agree. If you want to wash
Rob Parker,
he has to win, and that's it.
That's what I was going to say. Maybe he'll change his tune if they win. But right now, I think he's playing the safe game.
And the crazy part, Monty, is that the people, quote unquote, competing against Brock Purdy for the MVP, Tyreek Hill banged up. Dak just got smoked. Jalen Hurts lost 3 in a row. Mahomes having one of his off years. So
McCaffrey.
Lamar Jackson is in the mix, but the reality is Brock Purdy, as the weeks pass, the case is even stronger.
Yes.
And
Rich is basically saying he needs to start campaigning for himself.
And I'm not saying he should be like, yeah, world, guess what? I'm Brock Purdy, and I'm the mother effing best. Like, I don't think he needs to say that. But when asked about the MVP, he was quick to say, no. You know who I think the MVP is? I think Christian should be MVP. To quote him, he goes, I really do believe that. He does everything for us. And so in my eyes, Christian McCaffrey's the MVP.
I agree with him.
It's a selfless answer.
Yeah.
And here's the problem. With a guy like Brock Purdy, I'll claim it. I said this before anyone else. And who says stuff like that? Big Vanilla Poppy on the weekends. He loves to say he says things before everyone else. I did say this a while back. I said, if he was Trey Lance, the conversation would be so different because that would mean a number 3 pick turned out the way you thought. A star. A star. Stars. But because he was the last pick in the draft, we assume, well, he ain't that good. The Niners just make him look good. If this was Trey Lance, we would absolutely be saying, look, the Niners nailed it. They picked him 3rd overall, franchise changer.
Because he's in a position where you have to prove yourself. At least to the public. So the public's sitting there. It's like, we're all the kings. We're waiting to see if he's going to survive or not. Either give him the thumbs up or the thumbs down.
Like you're Joaquin Phoenix in the Gladiator.
Yeah, but he only gets that thumbs up from the public when he wins a Super Bowl. Yep. Otherwise, he's still that guy, and I'm giving him a thumbs down.
If he was...
It's just how the world works. It doesn't mean it's fair.
Dude.
It just is what it is. S-O-C-K-S.
Spell out socks in Spanish.
It is what it is.
S-O-C-K-S. S-O-C-K-S. It is what it is. And you like that, don't you, Mons?
I was like, spell socks in medias? I was like, what?
No, S-O-C-K-S.
Got it. No, yeah, I got it after.
It is what it is. And if he were Trey Lance, we'd be having such a different conversation about, wow, John Lynch and Shanahan, they picked the right guy, MVP. But because it's Brock Purdy, who is like option number 3 or even 4 at times.
Hey, man, they're playing football. It's a game of stats, but that applies to everything in life. When someone else gets a shot and that guy doesn't come from this crazy pedigree or background, that dude's going to have to work 3 times harder to prove himself as opposed to the hot shot who has that reputation or that family name or everything else where it's expected.
Well, I'll give you an example. Now, I don't want to get into politics because that just divides people. But that was what was
So does Brock Purdy.
But that was sort of what was shocking to people, a handful of years ago when Barack Obama became president. Politics aside, I'm not talking about policy. I'm talking about how he got there. It was shocking to people. That's like, whoa. He beat Hillary Clinton in the primaries,
the social worker guy?
The guy from Chicago? The guy whose name at the time, you're like, wait, what's his name again? Oh, wow, he beat the Clinton legacy to beat Hillary to get the ticket. Mm-hmm. Like, when someone comes from more out of nowhere.
So, again, it's nothing against Brock. You just have to work extra hard to prove yourself.
And there is the sentiment. The only thing I will back up the Brock. See, I don't want to back up any Brock Purdy hater. But the best argument they can make is it's not even the best player on the team, let alone the MVP. But isn't he doing everything he could in the leadership position of quarterback? I agree. Trent Williams might be the best player on the team. What he does, right? Deebo Samuel, when he was hurt, the Niners were missing something. Christian McCaffrey is arguably the most versatile player in the last 25 years of the NFL. And then you got Ayuk, who plays away. George Kittle, the vibe he brings, second best tight end, arguably behind Kelsey. But what more could Brock Purdy do?
Nothing. And I think he's playing it 100% right. Although we'd like to see him maybe say, you guys are doubting me. And I'm doing everything. Like, what good would he get out of that? Although we want to see a little pushback, he would get crucified, like Monty said. And he could do all of that, and he could be boastful, and he could be confident, and he could say all those things on the field. And when all's said and done at the parade, then he could drop his mic and say what he wants. When they win...
Oh, do you think he has a line ready for the parade?
He's going to be like, and guess what? In world... all you who doubted me all year could lick my nanny poof poof to you.
You know what?
And he drops his mic and he walks off.
Yep.
And that's what he says, nanny poof poof.
I'm with Covino.
Let me ask you
That's the ultimate.
A real question. Besides instead of number 3 overall, he was Mr. Irrelevant, which just adds to the story, but, does hurt him as far as getting credit.
Yeah.
Do you think also working against him is that everything about him from quiet, not very big, white dude from Iowa that's not like very loud, and he's to himself and he's religious. Like there's nothing about him that's like bam in your face. Like he's like a humble, small town.
He also wears Costco clothes.
Yeah, and he there's nothing flashy or like cool about him really. I like him because he's my quarterback, but Brock Purdy, if he walked into the Walgreens down the block, if you weren't a football fan, you'd be like, oh, this is a regular white dude.
Yeah. And I think anything that people can use against him, they're using against him right now.
Yeah.
Until he wins the Super Bowl, I think that's when things will change.
That's the only way.
Is it fair? No, but life's not fair.
Yeah.
Like I said, that applies to anybody. We've seen so many movies about this, so many stories told where that guy's leading the company. That guy.
Right. By the way, really quick, Monty, I wish you were right about that, but they had a topic on Speak a few weeks ago, and half the panel said even if the Niners win a Super Bowl, they're not going to give Purdy all the credit for that. So there's still going to be people questioning him even if the Niners win it all.
Let me tell you that Speak will have a different show saying otherwise at that point.
That's wild to me. All right, let's go to...
It's impossible, because then you're going to sound like the dumb one.
We give so much credit to a quarterback on a Super Bowl. Super Bowl ring changes everything.
Yeah. And he's gotten better. Like, he has actually gotten better this year before our eyes.
This is going to be such a good test case.
Yeah.
Because we're going to see.
Well, you know who... I think... I might have missed if this was mentioned, but you know who chimed in and supported Brock Purdy here? Tom Brady.
Oh.
And you would have thought, when Tom Brady won his first Super Bowl, it's like, that's more of a running defense team, and that is true of the early Patriots, but look what Tom Brady became.
I'm just so fascinated. And listen, I hope this conversation goes to the next level, because that means my team will have won a Super Bowl for the first time since I was a teenager. So let's go Niners. Let's go to your phone calls. Chris in Georgia, you're on with Covino and Rich. Brock Purdy, do you like the humble? I'm not saying routine, because I think it's who he is. But what do you think about the humble routine?
If he wins, by the way,
he seems like a
this
good
is
fella.
what children's stories are made out of.
Yeah, I'm going to add this to my pile of books, like the Gruffalo. There's a monster at the end of this book.
Canelo, again, the guy.
Where the red fern grows.
Yeah. I say Canelo Alvarez is also one of those. Imagine being a redheaded Mexican kid that everyone bullied and made fun of, and then you're the hero of all the Mexican people. It's the story of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Has he ever?
Brock Purdy is one of those.
Have you thought about reaching out to Canelo to write a children's book about his story?
I have, but he doesn't respond to my DMs. But the same thing with Brock Purdy, a guy that was overlooked. He's Mr. Irrelevant, and he has the chance to win a Super Bowl. This is what dreams and children's stories are made of, man.
Well, we still got some steps to get there, but as a Niners fan, I am cautiously optimistic. As I said earlier, if they don't win this year, I don't know when they'll win, because there's so many backup quarterbacks. There's teams that lost stars, and the Eagles and Cowboys both look vulnerable. Like, the Niners might have their most legitimate chance in 25 years. All right, Chris, Georgia, you're on with CNR. What's up, buddy?
Hey, so I like the humbleness of Brock Purdy now, but if we're talking about MVP, you take out Christian McCaffrey, those were all of Brock Purdy's losses. Lamar can win without a cast around him.
Yeah. I can't argue you. I think Lamar Jackson is more of a force. Like, you're right. Brock Purdy
Isn't it really Debo, though, Rich, that he needs?
McCaffrey does all the heavy lifting, but Debo just gives the Niners another layer of defensive confusion on the other side of the ball. Like
I feel like he won that game against the Eagles for you.
You know what it is? Because you on any given play, you're like, could they sweep the ball with Debo? Could he run it? Could he catch a little quick little slant? Or like, what could Debo do? And I think that throws off every other defense. And add that with McCaffrey, and then you forget Kittle, Ayuk. This 49ers team is pretty stacked.
Yeah.
It's a fun team to watch.
Purdy's the story of the ugly duckling, kind of. What do you think about it?
You really want to write children's
Yeah,
book,
I'm gonna, there's a quarterback named Brock, and he wanted to be one of the greats, but he was just a little runt who wasn't really great at anything.
But he's good at everything.
And they voted him Mr. Irrelevant, and then he blossomed into this champion. What a story! Give me a break.
But Brock,
so again, he doesn't have to boast. The story writes itself at that point. Is my point.
But Brock, you don't have the arm of Justin Herbert. I know. You don't have the speed of Lamar Jackson.
Guess what? He's a swan at the end of the day.
But Brock, you are pretty good at everything, though. I know.
It's a great story.
I'm gonna write it down.
So in other words, he doesn't have to say it himself. The story's being written, and we're all going to remember it if and when he wins.